Legends of Grayskull is a fan podcast exploring the vast worlds of He-Man and She-Ra. Join Sean Scavarna and Matthew Duch as they discuss the history and mystery of Eternia and Etheria, diving deep into all incarnations of Masters of the Universe.
Hey, you know who's back? It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Now that you know, let's go get ready for the show. It's the Legends of Grayskull podcast. Sit back and enjoy the ride right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 102 of the Legends of Grayskull podcast, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Brandon's New Adventures, Old Adventures, Ladybird, UK Annuals, comics, mini-comics, anything and everything you can think of that He-Man, She-Ra, Masters of the Universe, Princess of Power! I'm Mattel logo down in the corner. I'm Matthew Duch, here again with Sean Scavarna. Sean, how we doing today?
I am very impressed. That's the first time for our audio listeners who are missing out. The video that Matt put together for the new intro was freaking cool. He's getting pretty good at this editing and getting stuff together and surprising everybody's things. So
he did not watch episode 101. That's also what he's revealing here.
Yes. Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know. How the hell did I miss 101? I didn't think we did it on 101.
It's on 101.
Well, then you're missing out, audio listeners, after 2 episodes.
But yes, peeling back the curtain for our loyal viewers. Yes, last time I added the intro after we recorded because it was not ready yet. This is the first
That's
time
why
I've actually played it leading into the show. The new song by Jeremy DeWitt, the new video by myself, and we are ready to roll for the next 102 episodes.
Woohoo!
So, yes, it's been a minute. Let's jump in. I've actually got a couple emails today. So let's start there. More than one. Yes, a couple is generally more than one.
But are they
Unless
both
Sean on prom night?
Wow.
What? No, that's not the right email. That's why I got too many emails, folks. There it is.
Same here.
All right. Yeah, we did. Okay. Simba's Guard. Tony Moore.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding episode 100. Dear Matt and Sean, congratulations on your 100th episode. Many happy returns. In an effort to be brief, I just want to make a few quick points. I will have to check out your back catalog. I also am an audio listener, with a few exceptions like episode 98, that I both listened to the audio version of and watched on YouTube just so I could give it a thumbs up. I need to go back and leave a comment. Thanks again for the remastering. That was his fan-requested remastering we got to on 98 for a beastly sideshow. My brain's going slow today. The CGI series has made it possible for me to go back and give New Adventures a second chance. I am slowly working my way through the show. It is on Peacock right now. If anybody's got that, I know if you got Xfinity, or at least in my area, Xfinity gives you Peacock for free. So it's there. Everything but the scientists are okay. I have to agree. Like, I'm telling you, for people who have not watched New Adventures, I stand by it. Like, everything that the internet, that the group of internet believes like Snarf and Orko are, the scientists actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they are annoying, bumbling, sidekick, comic relief that is not funny at any age. Like, there is no redeeming quality to them. That was all me. Back to Tony. I know the question was not asked of me, but I would love to see a Masters of the Universe Avengers crossover. And actually, the question was asked. We threw that out there. Anytime we throw something out, we love getting feedback back like that. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see, like, Masters of the Universe Avengers, absolutely. That'd be some great team ups in there. Lastly, thank you so much for mentioning me on the 100th episode. I was honored. As always, thank you for your time, Tony Simbasgard. No, thank you for your time. And thank you, everybody who takes the time to listen to our episodes, even if they don't provide feedback, but just seeing those numbers means a lot to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Tony, once again. He's like what's that term? Is a stalwart or whatever, that he's always there. Like he might not send us something every episode, but you can sense his presence. Yeah. He is guarding us, like Simba.
And I'm kind of curious, like, because he said he's got to check out our back catalog, and to me it feels like he's been with us, like forever. Back there, Skelly Vader and J Mac and everybody that I'm forgetting now. It's like, fuck you, dude. But like, it feels like he's been on the journey for a while. So I'm curious, Tony, when you drop your next email, let us know when you jumped on, if you remember. I'm curious because it feels like he's always been here.
Absolutely.
All right, next, I actually got three emails. This one. Next email is titled, one more thing regarding episode 100.
I knew it.
From Tony Simbasgard Moore. Dear Matt and Sean, I forgot to mention how much I love the awesome new theme song. Sincerely, Tony Simbasgard Moore.
Very cool.
Yes, like I said, Jeremy DeWitt, amazing work done by him, and I hope you enjoyed the video that's now accompanying.
Yeah.
And then next email, and now this makes sense actually. Now reading it, the next email is also from Tony Simbasgard Moore, and it's regarding episode 101. And audio listeners, I do have to apologize because I did have a brain fart because we did episode 100 live on YouTube, and then I got wrapped up in stuff, and I forgot to actually upload it over on the audio platform. So episode 100 and 101 came out like 24 hours apart for our audio listeners. And he said he is an audio listener primarily. So that makes sense why he's catching up now because of my error. All right. Dear Matt and Sean, thanks once again for another great comic review. I did enjoy the first part of Masterverse issue number 4. I saw how it could be an episode of the CGI show we did not see. Although for all the reasons you mentioned, I think it was an alternate CGI universe. Not to make you feel bad, but I'm glad to know that I was not the only one who got confused as to who the real good guys were when the Masters began to fight the Fakers. Yeah, it just like, I understand you want them to be duplicates, but you got to suspend that disbelief as an artist, in my opinion. You've got to give little cues in there, just like little harder angles on some emblems or something to help be like, okay, who am I actually rooting for here?
Yeah.
The only question I have that you did not address is this. If Orko was able to hack the Fakers and make them turn on each other, why were Tuvar and Badra affected? Or was that part of a joke that went over my head? I don't remember Tuvar and Badra being affected.
I didn't think they were, but it's been, 2 weeks since we did the last one, and I don't remember off the top of my head myself.
Probably should have read that. Let me grab I think my issue should be right here. Hang on.
All right. Now you're stuck with me, folks. I'm still sad. If they still don't announce the CGI show coming back, the Tuvar and Badger thing is going to be bugging me for the rest of my life because that was such an easy go-to. So cross your fingers, folks. And I know usually with some of these animated shows, they have said that, they'll be working on them behind the scenes and then they'll announce them later. So we'll see what happens.
And my kids have absconded with my issue apparently because it's not where it should be. So yeah, we're gonna have to table that for the moment here, Tony. I will come up with an answer for you though, eventually. But right off the top of my head, that does not ring a bell. I'm wondering if it was just because in the series they would bicker a lot. So I wonder if that's what he means. If there was some of that bickering thrown in there. But that's pretty much standard for Tuvar and Badra.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm looking it up, but I'm having my issues with it right now too.
Well, I'll go on and we can jump back to that if you find it. Okay, now the He-Force story. You guys addressed every concern I had. I think the only good thing that came out of the story was the name He-Tiger. Thank you, Matt, not Tim Seeley. As far as the CGI series goes, I would welcome some movies if Netflix does not want to do a season 4. Just be sure to give Cringer a huge part in said movie or movies. I agree. Cringer is just a huge part of that series with him being the adopted father. He's taken on a little bit of the King Randor role, a lot of the vintage Man-at-Arms role, and as long as being He-Man's, steed. So he definitely is a huge part of the CGI series, arguably more than any other Masters of the Universe series up until now. So
yeah, I've said it multiple times. He's my favorite character on the entire show, and that's mind-blowing to me because typically I'm boring enough to just go, well, He-Man's my favorite character because he's a leader usually. Yeah. This one, it's like, no, Cringer flat out was like my absolute favorite of this entire show since season 1. And that's like that. There's multiple things about if they don't do a season, if they don't follow this up with more, man, are they wasting such potential with this series. I was filling some time when you were looking for the comic by saying, because we were talking Tuvar and Badra, that's another low-hanging fruit that's going to still bug me for the rest of my life, that they couldn't get that off the ground, and they couldn't give me more Cringer, they couldn't give me more Battle Cat, and again, I never expected that to be my favorite character, but yeah, completely won me over.
I agree. And especially becoming too bad. Like, it's now been confirmed in the art book that that it wasn't just a throwaway gag. The plan was to get them there. But even with everything that we've seen, I'm still like, how do you still get them there? Like, it's not a cut and dry thing where it's like, oh, clearly they're about to turn evil or whatever. Like, it's, it's very much left up in the air. I do have one question. If season 4 happens and the plot from the art book gets used, spoiler alerts, I guess, if you have not seen the art book or listened to our episode about the art book, probably skip ahead like 5 minutes or so. It did say that Cringer would be part of the team that went to Earth to find Marlena. I have to wonder what his disguise would be. Passing him off as an Earth Tiger would make the most sense, but passing him off as an exotic pet would still draw too much attention. What do you guys think? As always, thank you for your time, Tony Simba's Gardener. I don't remember him saying that he would, but I'm taking your word for it. I would rather he just stay at home and it be the humans that went to find her. But yeah, I guess that would be it, is him being a tiger, or at best a dog disguise. You got some pretty big dogs. I know it's kind of crossing animal breeds there, but I think no matter what, they're gonna wind up garnering some attention when they go over. Even just the 3, although they can pass for humans. I mean, Earth is completely different. So I think that would be an area where you would see the comedy side of the CGI series with them bumbling through Earth.
I mean, Tila was one of the people going, if I remember. It's bugging me because I'm trying to find. I had my books situated a little bit, and I guess it's situated a little too much because now I can't find that one really quickly.
That one I've got right there. I can see that one. But it was. We saw pictures of Keldor, Duncan, Tila, and Tila.
Yeah, and I figure worst comes to worst, it could just be, they do something magically so that he looks more like a house cat, or like maybe like I wouldn't want him to be a dog like Matt's saying, but it makes a little more sense because some dog breeds are pretty freaking huge.
Yeah. No, that's it. I don't necessarily want him to be a dog, just like that would be a disguise. But yeah, for the most part, I don't think they're going to be too worried about blending in necessarily. There's so much great stuff in this book. If you guys haven't picked this up yet, was it all the way at the very end?
It was at the back, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there it is. When the horn and oh, yeah, it does say Cringer. His memory is better than this. Adam, Duncan, Tila, and Cringer plus Keldor escape to planet Earth on a desperate mission. So yeah, probably just be a tiger. You could get a bunch of the the nice Secret of the Sword gags. Your animal, he talks. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
I think they just have fun with it. So.
Yeah. I mean, considering he's typically the wisest one and the voice of reason out of the group, I don't think it's a bad idea to have him around, but I do think that Tila is probably going to be working overtime on her magic to make sure he blends in more than not. That's just me. So.
Well, I could see it being, they probably will just, because the looks of the human characters we saw were them dressed up in street clothes. So I think he will just basically have, earth colorings, or maybe they pull a Scooby-Doo type thing where he puts on like an oversized hat and some baggy clothes and like
he's doing the Raphael and the Ninja Turtles movie with
exactly big trench coat, and I could even see him at first until they get the lay of the land, like Cringer being the one, like you said, Sean, he's the leader, he's the experienced one, he's the he's the wise one. So I could see him trying to take charge, like, no, Cubs, you stay back. Let me talk to this guy. And walking up to some like magazine vendor and be like, "Excuse me, sir."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that typical. Yeah, I can see it. I would appreciate it because hell, the '87 movie was not without its moments like that with Gwildor half the time. So yeah,
exactly. Oh, wouldn't that be? What they dress him up, Cringer, with like the pink boa and like the hat and everything, like Gwildor in the '87. That's what I want. That's how they disguise him, Tony. Final answer: pink boa, the coat, the hat, everything like Gwildor. That's how they do it. Deep cut.
I'm gonna go with 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the detective looking version of Raph walking around the city with the trench coat, the fedora. Yeah, it's a little like when you go that big and you have to go home like Gwildor did. It's a little too obvious. If you at least tone it back, because the designs of the other characters are very Earth-esque.
Yeah.
They look like they fit in. So having him be part of it, it's like you got to at least give him something. You can't have a sore thumb in the group because it's going to make it obvious. But I could be wrong, because that is also why I don't write this stuff, because I don't see that potential versus that guy.
I don't know shit. I do know.
That's my wife every day, and she believes me now. It's awesome. It's freeing. I don't know shit.
I do know Tony is a great guy. Thank you for always letting us know your thoughts, and can't wait to hear from you about episode 102. And pick up this art book. Like this, oddly enough, this is probably my favorite art book thus far. Out of all of them, just because, like the series itself, it's the most exciting. Like even the Power and Honor Foundation, great book. I'd seen a lot of that stuff over the years. Like there's not as much that I hadn't seen yet. You know, same with, you know, the Filmation stuff and everything. Like, you know, I'm not saying they're all great books. They're all full of great information. But this is the one where it's like it's fully brand new information going through here.
Yeah.
And with it being done, I mean, I know it's just something that couldn't have been done back in, like, you know, even the late 80s, early 90s. But having the creators with it, you know, being able to put into words their ideas, their thoughts so soon after. And as it's still fresh in my mind, they're still working on it. There's still the potential for more. It's completely different, and no disrespect intended, but it's completely different from the guy going, yeah, you know, 35 years ago, I think I was thinking this.
Yeah.
You know, because it's so easy for that. I mean, I see it all the time. Like, I'm talking to my wife about something that happened 10 years ago, and she's like, no, you're remembering it all wrong. I'm like, yeah, I am. Like, it happens. It's human nature. Especially as you grow, you come back to it. Other people influence you. You know, you hear a story from some guy down the road. Like, you know, it's the telephone game. It's hard to put yourself back into that mindset. Whereas we had this awesome opportunity of where everybody could put their feelings and thoughts down right after they got done doing it. And that's...
Absolutely.
I love that. I wish we had that back then. But, like... You know, or imagine if you were sitting there in 95 even, right? Or 93, what Filmation was 83. I just go off my birth date because that's when it all started for me. But imagine if in 93 they released an art book about Filmation. Or in 91 they released an art book about, you know, creating the vintage toy line and everything.
Yeah.
Like, even just 10 years after, like, what a great time that would have been to do it, but it never would have been made.
Well, you know, I've been thinking about this on a personal level about how, you know, like it's interesting that, you know, Reagan deregulating everything ended up making, and I know there's people that argue this, but basically half-hour toy commercials for people that meant the world to us, you know, and at the end of the day, I mean, these things. There was more to it than it just selling a toy. Did I want a toy if it showed up on the show? Sure. Yeah. Like I wanted Stridor, and I'd want character. I wanted Lord Mask and Chakotay for the longest time and stuff because that episode was so effective to me. But you know, like I am blown away by just the fact that like they've talked about cells from Filmation just were getting thrown away. And it's like that meant the world to people our age. And, you know, like for other people, it's just like, oh, we don't have storage for this anymore and all that. And it's like, I wonder how well that would have done. Because like He-Man, Transformers, and Ninja Turtles usually had the easiest time, and Ghostbusters. Those were like my big four from my childhood. Those had the easiest time of encroaching back into my life even as I got older, and it made me still welcome them back every single time. So it would have been interesting if they could have done it then and had, you know, like a 10-year retrospective book or something about the toy or about the cartoon. But I think there might have been a lot of other people who when the cartoon ended for them and the toy line ended for them, they just kind of said, okay, that's that. And they moved on because now all of a sudden there's girls and there's, you know, this and that and all this stuff as they get older. But so I don't know if it would have done as well as it would have now.
Oh,
but
it
would have been
not at all. That's what I'm saying. There's
it would have been
no way that took off. Like,
but, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, just it's a different time. It's a different era now. It's, you know, we're ready for this. There's a market for. I mean, like you said. I mean, and even beyond that, into like comics and stuff. I think it was like Steve Ditko or somebody. I remember reading an article, and he's like, people would like come by the Marvel offices, and he would just hand them old line art, like the comic pages. Like he just here, or it would go in the trash. Yeah, because back then, same with the cells. Everything was physical, but like. I won't say no one wanted it, but nobody knew how to get this to the people who wanted
Yeah.
You know, like you and me, we would have ate that up.
Oh yeah.
Like absolutely. But you know, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have, you know, they had fan letters or whatever. And I think I've heard about comic creators doing that too. They get a nice fan letter asking, you know, for an autograph, and they throw in some artwork. Just like, hey, it's going in the garbage anyways. Like, and it's mind boggling because you didn't know how to get that kind of connection and that interaction that's so easy to get now. You know. It's crazy to think about how much stuff, like you said, was just like just taken out with the trash.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we are the generation where nostalgia's pull is the hardest on us because we grew up in an era where if you missed something, it was gone. Unless you were lucky enough to have a VCR back in those days, and then at least you got it on tape. But then literally to have, let's say 20 years later, if you start from where I was born, basically 20 years later, then all of a sudden, hey, here's a box set of Masters of the Universe on DVD, and I'm just sitting there with my jaw on the floor going, you can do that now? And all of these other things all of a sudden became new again, and it opened up this whole, you know, like treasure trove of people remembering all these things, plus the internet. It's like no wonder our generation really never got the chance to grow up. We didn't want to. And we didn't have to. All this stuff was always. It's like even though you grew up and you learned about puberty and girls or boys or whatever it is that you're into, and the other side of that, then all of a sudden it's like, hey, by the way, remember He-Man? There's DVDs now. Remember this? There's this. You know, and toy lines continuing and you know bringing stuff back. It's like we've just been the most affected by this, and I think that's part of why in some cases it isn't as generational as we wish it could be, because they weren't there for 40 years with this stuff and they're just dipping their toe in the water versus, you know, the way that we were growing up with it and the way that it mattered to us, because there is something to be said about those days. The storytelling actually meant something versus now I feel like a lot of stuff really is just consume, move on. Back then, it was vital to us to watch these things because it was the next thing that we could see with a story for what we love, you know, or whatever. In that way,
and you couldn't consume it all. Try as we might, and I think you hit on something big here that I never really thought about, but you could try as hard as you wanted to be in front of that TV every afternoon, or to get every comic, you know, once a month down on the spinner rack, or what you know, every toy. But you couldn't.
No.
Not in our day. Something would come up. You'd get sick. You'd have a doctor's appointment. The 7-Eleven wouldn't get its full shipment in. The other kids would get their first, like, you know, when a toy sold out, a toy sold out.
Yep.
You know, I couldn't jump on eBay or Amazon because I didn't find CGI He-Man in the stores. I just didn't have him back in the day.
Yep.
And I think that's definitely a part of what takes us back. That's what makes me go revisit stuff to begin with and then kind of fall into a rabbit hole is, what did I miss? I didn't watch anywhere near 130 episodes of He-Man growing up. You probably got closer, but I have a feeling you didn't hit everything.
No, I'm sure I didn't hit everything, but I probably saw a decent amount of it though.
Right. But just at the end of the day, like you said, but nowadays you can, and I find myself like that with modern stuff. You know, I watched WandaVision. Am I ever going to go back and watch it again? Probably not. I did that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's different nowadays where you can sit there, you can enjoy everything, you can get at your pace, you can get a sense of completion out of it where it's like, okay, that's done, you know. And it also comes back to, you know, I keep talking because I'm fascinated by it, the serialized versus the standalone episodes. It's so much easier to go back to these old shows with standalone episodes. You don't have to know anything beforehand than to sit here and go, well, you know, I'd really like to watch. I'm not throwing it under the bus. It just popped in my head first thing, I promise. I really want to sit down and watch Revelation. I can't really just jump into this episode because this episode is a continuation of this episode. This episode, you know, it's like it's tough nowadays where it's like if I do feel if I want to watch a modern series, I have to sit down and I gotta go boop 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 boop, you know.
Yeah.
And there's no I can just throw an episode on and just watch for a half hour, 45 minutes, and then continue something else. It's you either got to make that commitment or you don't. So now once I've done that commitment, all right, like I'm good. At least, you know, at least in the short term, maybe years afterwards, I'll go do that again.
Yeah.
But it's definitely more of an experience than just like, you know, He-Man, She-Ra, that was a way of life. That was a daily thing back in the day.
No, it's like appointment viewing versus, you know, and that's part of why it was special, I think, because nowadays it's just too easy. And and like as much as I like serialized versions of storytelling, because I do feel it does resonate more for me as an adult and even as a kid. The like we've talked about that previously, but the multi-episode arcs that would happen, like Thundercats, when Lion-O had to do the trials in order to become the Lord of the Thundercats, legitimately, that whole week I was on the edge of my seat watching those because I was like, how's he going to fight Panthro? You know, like that was like mind blowing to me that he had to fight probably the scariest Thundercat as far as I was concerned, because a guy always just looked like he was going to just rip people in half the time.
And then how's it going to end? When's it going to end? Exactly. It's continued again?
Yeah, exactly. And then to this day, the one that I never got to see the ending of, even though I know it's on streaming services, but I almost am like, no, I just won't watch it now.
Right.
Is G.I. Joe did the whole thing about Serpentor, and they were making Serpentor and getting the DNA all across the world. And as a kid, I had everything Monday through Thursday, and then Friday we had to leave before I can watch it because we were going to go on a weekend trip. And I was so like, can we just wait until after G.I. Joe? And my parents were like, no, because that is when rush hour hits and we don't want to get in traffic. I'm like, I will happily be in traffic if it means I could find out how to get some Serpentor here. And
if you fall asleep in the back seat. Yeah.
Never got to see it. It was the worst. I mean, and that's something that, you know, my kids never, ever will understand that feeling. Because my kids are up there, they binge, you know, like how my son binged Sonic Prime on Netflix 3 times in one day because he was so excited that show was on. And I'm like, how the heck are you doing this? And he's just smiling and he's got his Sonic fix. But now it's so easy that it almost, I almost want it to be a challenge to do some of these things. So it feels like I've accomplished something that it feels like I did do that versus I can just do it whenever I want. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, it's like the mentality he had versus what they have now.
I completely agree. And I've even set up some of that where I'm like the CGI figures. I told myself I was only going to collect what I found in stores. Because it's so easy to go on and do the pre-order and whatever, but like, it's not as exciting to me. Like, I want to find...
No.
I want to go to the peg and be like, who do they have and all this and that. So, granted, there are a couple that I end up buying offline. But that... I broke my rule because they were clearance. Like, their deep discount had Adam and Muscatara for like $4. I'm like, okay, I can't pass up a good deal. Like...
Yeah.
But, like, I don't have an Evil Lyn or a Beastman from the CGI line because I never found them. Well, technically, I did find Beastman, but it was at a resale shop, and they wanted, like, $35. And I'm like...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Beastman was technically a deluxe figure, but he's not that deluxe.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, I've set up stuff like that, you know, the loyal subjects, the little...
Yep.
Not PVC. I can't think of what. But anyway, yeah. Like, those guys, I would only buy them if I found them. Like, just little things like that I just... I set up for myself, and I find myself enjoying it more that way. Now, I'm not saying like today's kids are wrong or like they've got their own thing. I'm not even trying to compare generations necessarily. But yeah, for me, I am trying at this age to find the most enjoyment I can out of this stuff. And that involves coming on, talking to Sean, enjoying the stuff that's come, and just finding ways to enjoy what's coming out. And I know we get bogged down here when something doesn't hit, you know, Masterverse issue 4. Tim Seeley in general cannot finish. But, you know, I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm just trying to get the most enjoyment out of this property as I can. And if I can set things up in that way for myself so that I enjoy it more, I will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not the same way. I don't want to say, but like for me at least, this could kind of dovetail into something now that I think about it.
Well, you're not really collecting modern lines.
No,
because they're just not hitting with you.
No, they're not hitting with me in the way that it's hitting with other fans. And again, you know, I'm never going to tell somebody how to collect, and I'm glad that the modern stuff is resonating with people because the line is still vital per Mattel seeing this. Exactly. But I've definitely I've sidestepped it a whole bunch into going more into the Mondo side of things than going into Masterverse and Origins because they just didn't resonate. But there is that part of me, like the backdrop here is brand new. This has been the last month of my life trying to get this set up down here in a way where I'm able to display things the way I finally want to display them. And I know recently you've been doing the same with your basement and all that. You got your setup, and I've actually hit a point where I'm like, what represents what I love to me versus what is there where I'm just like, I just have it, but maybe it isn't as vital to me as like the classic He-Man.
Yep.
Or classic Skeletor, and not classics, but like the classic look of them, you know, in that way. No, just for the audio, for our listeners, just to make sure I'm not endorsing classics all the time. I always am, but I'm not this time. But it's like that's the kind of stuff that I'm finally getting to versus I just need every version and I need all this other stuff. So that's like starting to mess with my head the older I'm getting and the more. Because like I had no idea this many rows of classics were going to be on my shelf until I did it the other day, and then I'm like, that is a lot of real estate versus what I thought I had initially. And so now I'm like, well, how do I handle it?
It's interesting too because I got like you said. I'll give a quick glance over here for our video watchers. Ignore the not well, you probably can't even tell. But there are a couple knocked over figures that I need to pick up. But so I set up I got the 2D Tolfs, and then of course all my bookcase and everything. And we'll do an in-depth tour once I finalize everything. But like I set up the 2D Tolfs and empty. I'm like, oh, shit, I got a lot of space here. I'm like, yeah. I might be able to get like my classics in one, and then my Mythic Legions in the other.
Yeah.
Well, and then I quickly saw, nope, I'm going to need the two for Masters.
Yep.
One thing I have noticed, though, is I did Evil Warriors on the Snake Mountain side and then Heroic Warriors on the Grayskull side. Mm-hmm. My Evil Warrior shelves are very, very full.
Yep.
I got quite a bit of space on my Heroic Warrior shelves.
Yeah. And the other thing, too.
I thought I was a bit more even. That, like, I knew I had more evil figures, but it's seriously like double. So, if you want to know how I skew, apparently.
Well, I think, like, for me, I ended up lucking into a few along the way. Like, I was never actively looking for a Triclops, for instance, because he was a pretty high end and he was never re-released or whatever. So I was like, okay, you're lucky if you pull that one off. And I was going through this one big trade with a guy like way before I was doing podcasts, and yeah, I ended up with like Night Stalker out of that. I ended up with Cobra Khan. I got Triclops in that, and I came at like Gygor was part of that. There was a bunch, and also he threw in I think it was a Scareglow and a Fisto. Wow. If not, it was Fisto. And long story short, like I got a few that I wasn't expecting to get. The only one I think to this day, I ended up losing the yellow-skinned Evil Lyn. So I don't know if I'll try to swing back and get her. And I also still haven't gotten Whiplash, which I know is a sore point for you.
Hey, but, I got him. I'm happy.
But beyond that, I have all of the major villains up through a certain era of the line. And then after that, I started, like, I got Ninjor, I have Scareglow, but Cobra Khan I don't have anymore. I ended up selling him eventually, and some other ones. I never got Camo Khan and stuff. Yeah. But like, there is this part of me that I'm like, okay, if I decided to scale this down, what is it that speaks to me as what is Masters of the Universe now as an adult, looking at this line that I loved as a kid? As a kid, if there was a new one and we were at the toy store and we found it, I would be very lucky that I'd say 75% of the time, my mom usually said, sure, get it. It'll give you something to play with for a couple weeks until we, whatever. Or if I did like great in school or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was just like you got that fix versus, okay, what is this? What speaks to me about this now on the shelves as who are the key components of this line? Because, like, again, Whiplash for the bad guys, and another one I had once and I got rid of them was Stratos. Never got a Stratos after that. And it's not me doing the whole I hate Stratos, but it's just I wasn't really like, oh, Stratos. It was like, okay, I got Stratos. And then eventually I'm like, okay, I don't need Stratos. And I've never felt like I've needed them since then.
Well, that's it. And it was kind of the same thing. I never set out with any real intention. It was more just, what can I afford? What can I get? Yeah. Who speaks to me? So,
sure.
And that's it at the end of the day. But then there's like weird stuff where I'm like, I don't even know how this happened. Like, I was actually, my daughter helped me set a lot of this up. Sorting weapons and everything. Like, it got very overwhelming having everything, getting everything unpacked out of totes and everything. But she was a big help and helped me do it. But we're like putting stuff together, and I realized that I have 2 classics Mermistas. Like, I'm like, how does that even, like, I didn't even necessarily set out to own one Mermista. I know one of them I know I won off a wheel.
Yeah.
I have no idea where the other one came from, like, legitimately. And it's not even like parts. Like, I legitimately have 2 full Mermistas. Shield, the little horn weapon, legs and tail for both. Like, so it's not even like I grab, like, oh, if I grab, an extra torso from someone's part lot, then I can do this. Like, I actually have that with King Hiss. I have an extra set of legs, so that way I can do, a human in the snake version. And I remember getting that, but like this, I'm like, how's that even happen? Like, how? What?
Yeah.
So, but now I do have her displayed both ways in the case, which is pretty cool. But it's just like, it's one of those things. It's like, throughout the collecting, some of this stuff is just like, how, when, why? Like,
mine.
What was I thinking? Was I even thinking? Probably not. It was probably just a lot. There were a big trade like you had, and I never realized. Apparently, I don't have a Lord Mask. I could have sworn I had Mask.
Oh.
But we got everything unpacked, and I have no mask. So it's one of those things where it's like I probably had a lead on him, didn't pull the trigger, but in my mind, it kind of checked him off. So that's the nice part about having everything out now. I can actually look. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah. I mean, for me, the weirdest part is I feel like I did win a couple of He-Man figures here and there, like legit He-Man, not just the brand. So I ended up with, I think there's 4 on my shelf right now of classics, just He-Man. There's He-Man on my shelf, not to get into even battle armor, because I do have one of him, and
Right.
I ended up having. I'm like, okay, if I got 4 He-Man, I got to get 4 Skeletor. Why? Why am I doing this? Like, and then I got one Skeletor and one He-Man where they were the first release ones. So, and it's the whole, when we had that talk on here, you're like, well, my first release He-Man has really strong ankles, so I'm like, well, I gotta hunt them down. And then I got one, and then I'm like, well, now I need a Skeletor because the crotch piece is wider, so then that way, and I'm going through this whole OCD thing about it, and the next thing I know, I have 4 of each on the shelf, and I have all these other figures, and I'm like, why did I do this again? Like, what is up with it? So, and the worst thing is, I've had more.
Yeah.
Like along the way since 2016 when I first started this, I know I've had at least 3 to 4 other He-Mans somewhere.
Right.
And I think I at least had maybe 2 or 3 other Skeletors in there. So I'm like, what is going on with this? It's almost like I'm trying to get all of them because I couldn't get any of them originally. And it's like, I have nothing. Just pulling them in. And it's like, if you don't have a home, come to mine. You can be on my shelf, you know?
And there is that collector. I've seen them over the years, not calling anyone out, but like when they realize that they're not going to be able to collect all the classics or all of the vintage, and they just sell everything off. They're like, oh, I can't even, like, you know, they can't even process having a part of a collection in their eyes. You know, and I guess that's one of the things, at least with me, it's like I don't set out necessarily to, like I said, I don't set out to collect all the classics. I don't even set out to collect like all the vintage Heroic Warriors done it. Like I don't have that mindset. I've got figures I would like to own.
Yeah.
And
same.
if I can get them all, great. If I can't get them all, I'm still good. So at least for my mental health, at least there's that where I can just like I look at my collection right now and I'm like, I'm good with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I could get a Lord Mask, even better. If I could get that, like, you know, I definitely got the figures that I'm like, it'd be nice to add to.
Yeah.
But if I never bought another figure, I'm good.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Like I've thought about it a few times. Like, okay, because sometimes for me at least, collecting turns into almost like a depression, depending, because like when you see your friends able to do stuff, but maybe you have to rein it in a bunch, depending what's happening. Or I've had to go through my share of I have had to sell stuff off that maybe I didn't want to, but had to help out or whatever. And there is that part of me sometimes where I'm like, I don't want to sell some of these things, so why do I keep the rest of them if this is going to be a reminder? But then at the end of the day, it always comes back to when I see this stuff on the shelf, I'm like, no, this stuff still resonates enough with me that maybe I'll get that one again sometime. Or if I don't, I still have so many of these that when I first even, spent my money on eBay to get that first classic He-Man, it's like this. I thought it was just going to be him and Skeletor on the shelf, and I was just going to be okay with that. And the sickness took over, and to this day, I still look at those, and I'm like, I literally can't. I couldn't leave all of this just because I had to get rid of this part of it or whatever. So, and that's what I'm thinking clearly, though. When I'm in that mode, it really does. I feel like my father, where everything's wrong, we're getting rid of all this, and I'm turning to that guy for maybe an hour, and then I rein it back in.
I get the guilt, when those months or those times something happens, something breaks, where it's like we're gonna make it, but like this is gonna be a tight month, and then I come down here and I'm just like. I feel that guilt. Like I've got so much money tied up down here. It's that. Well, if I hadn't bought that He-Man 10 years ago, then I could afford this repair right now.
Yeah, it's funny to hear that because I'm exactly like that. Like I look at what I have down here, and I know I brought my wife down here to look at the shelves and all this stuff and show her, here was my plan and this is what I wanted to do. And I love how it worked out. And every time she comes down and takes a look at it, she gets quiet every single time. And she's like, yep, okay. And then she walks away. And I'm like, I know what that means. I'm not dumb, but at the same time, I'm still proud of what I'm doing. But yeah,
Right.
in looking in hindsight, yeah, how much lower would my credit card balance be, for instance, if I didn't do half the crap I did when I was just trying to grab as much of this as I could? So yeah, that's it. Look at it this way: the moral of the story today, if He-Man was here, is be responsible with your money. Don't do anything too crazy. And if you do, never let your wife find out about it. Until next time.
Until next time.
Never flaunt it in front of your wife like I do and just turn it into, oh, great. I forgot that this actually is like, she's not looking at it from the joy. She's looking at it going, I don't want to know how much you've spent on all of this, but I know it was probably way more than we ever could have afforded. And it'll be like, yep. And
I don't want to add up how much
I don't either.
I've spent on this because
I still haven't lived this one down. This is the one that I will never live down. And the best part, like in the last year or two, especially, my wife has flat out said to me she doesn't want me to sell anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, if we can avoid it at all costs, I would rather you not sell any more stuff, because I've seen how much stuff that is not in your basement anymore. And I know it hurts you. So let's not do that. Let's find another option. But then when she still sees it, it turns into the whole, I could just see it like that woman doing all the algebra equations and the calculus, and just that like questioning look on her face. That's exactly how it feels when she looks at what I have down here.
Yeah, my Grayskull, I got it at just the right time from a local seller. It took me a little bit to live that one down, but then actually, I forget how at one point she found out how much they were going for after I got mine, and she's like, "Oh, that you actually got a pretty good deal there." I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like that purse that was 75% off, but still, you know.
But for me, that one, I will never ever live it down. But I'm also like, well, if there's one that you don't want to live down, it's got to be something that's going to be as big as this. You know, like it's got to be something where it really does stand out. And it's like I can't think of anything beyond like Mondo Battle Cat and stuff that's going to be even remotely that impressive on the shelf to go, hey, by the way, this. And it's still, Mondo Battle Cat is still less expensive than what I paid for Grayskull. But I wanted it that bad, and the price worked out the way it did. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. Speaking of spending lots of money.
Yeah.
So Mondo finally revealed their deluxe Skeletor. This is up for pre-order now at mondoshop.com. $260 for interest-free payments of $65. Went on sale June 20th and will sell through June 30th at 11:59 a.m. Central Time. They are learning, obviously, because now all these people with Skeletor get 10 days, whereas I only got a day or 2 days with She-Ra and had to miss out because of that. Like, I'm glad they're doing it, but I'm still a little salty because you made us jump through some hoops before. But, yes, he comes with all of his accessories. I also like how they show right off the bat what's part of this exclusive.
Yeah.
And obviously what is going to be available in the regular release. So for the no matter what for the figure, you get the plastic hood, the battle axe, the havoc staff, the power sword, 3 sets of hands, modern head, and a vintage toy head.
Mm-hmm.
If you get this exclusive version that's available right now, you get all of that, plus a fabric cape and hood, the Terror Claws, the Alcala head, I forget what they called it, but it looks like an updated kind of 87 Mondo take on Skeletor, like more of an original head.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also get the battle armor, the Dragon Blaster armor, a fully articulated dragon with lock and collar, and a dragon flame breath attack.
It's gorgeous. Like, I thought the He-Man was badass until they put this out, and what got me, honestly, I did not expect the Terror Claws to be a part of it. So the fact that they're also in there, I'm like, okay, this is literally the deluxest Skeletor I've ever imagined. The only other thing I could imagine to make it more deluxe would be if they did a 2000X inspired head sculpt in it. Because then you could do, like, because he's got the cloak and everything. He doesn't really need much more 2000X to the armor. Just
no, it's very
because of the fangs in the 2000X.
Yeah, I mean, even the armor's got the spine going down the back of it.
I love that. Like, I absolutely love that look, and yeah, like for anybody, I know there were people that when the deluxe He-Man was getting issued and She-Ra and stuff, there was that feeling of, well, you know, Mondo was doing their own takes on these, and that's what made the original special. To me, it's like, this still is a Mondo take on this. Mm-hmm. It's very skewing what you loved as a kid, but they're amping up what you loved as a kid the way that Mondo was doing. So, because like He-Man isn't legit, like they just, you know, upsized He-Man. There's definitely some details there that were not in the original figure.
Even on the battle armor there, they added the crossbones underneath at the bottom of the battle armor there. And they added those little effects to his loincloth and everything. Like, it's definitely inspired by, but it's also very much not, you know, it's very much its own thing. The dragon looks amazing. Great update of it. The fact that it's fully articulated as well. God, just amazing. I love these shots. Really shows you what you can do. Where's the one that I know? Sean. The Terror Claws look awesome too. They're definitely mini comic inspired, where they're full gloves rather than just you know clipping over. But I think they did a bang up job. There's the one I think Sean.
Actually, out of those, I like that one. There's nothing wrong with that one. But my two of my favorites are actually the first one and the Terror Claw one. Actually, that one I love. I mean, the side by side of them, and it does work. I do like that you can almost do that entire stance. But when I saw that Terror Claws one where he's like, he looks like he's literally crawling out of a volcano with those on, and in the darkness is great. And that initial one with the cloak and him just like with his head down and stuff, I'm like, that is how I always wanted to see him looking. So it's like, this is the version where it's legit. Like, this is Nightmare Fuel Skeletor versus it just being, haha, here's a meme kind of BS.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, it's just amazing, and just all the different looks. Like, you know, you take off the bracers to get the Alcala, you know, bare forearms, and like it really even looks like, I don't know if they've done it in any pictures, but it looks like you can even take off the long tabard loincloth, and it looks like it's got an actual fur loincloth underneath.
Mm-hmm. And the fact too that, like, when they first were talking about this last year, Emiliano Santalucia posted on Facebook like the renders that they had, and when they did the Dragon Blaster one, I actually reached out and I'm like, so just out of curiosity, what are the chances of it being an articulated dragon rather than it being just a part of the armor? And he was just like, I can either say yes or no, but just wait and see it. I'm like, that wasn't a no. And then when we saw it finally, and I'm like, oh, that made my day, because I don't know why. I know the original Mondos always had like that, here's a little like cartoon sidekick from Filmation and all that. And the fact that now the dragon from Dragon Blaster Skeletor can be right there with him, even if you don't want him to dress like that, is just freaking great. I mean, I'd love to see Battle Armor Skeletor just holding the the Chain to the Dragon, even not even needing the Dragon Blaster look or whatever. You know,
well, that's it. Like, no matter what, you buy this and you're putting the dragon up. Like, I think everyone's going to put him up, regardless of whether they use that armor or not.
Absolutely.
You know, it's even got the fully formed skull, so you can even get kind of a new adventurers look if you don't use either of the hoods. Like, just, you know, I actually didn't catch that at first. That one was a fabric hood and one was a plastic hood.
Yep.
Because it looks so good.
Yeah, the fabric hood I like the best still, because I'm still not a fan. Like, this looks good with the plastic one. I'm not going to say it looks bad, but I'm still one of those people where if it looks like it's a bonnet around him more than it looks like a hood coming out of the armor, I'd rather do everything in my power to avoid that. And so the cloth one's going to be the way I go with this one. And then if I'm nuts enough to get a standard one eventually, because I am enjoying that I have 2 He-Man that I can pose and do whatever I want, I might actually do the plastic one to do the battle armor at least.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know, but that cloth, it is wired too, so you can go crazy with however you want it to look on the shelf. And yeah, I'm not the biggest Skeletor guy, and even I'm just sitting here just like amazed by everything you can do with this figure.
So, are you getting him?
Yep, I did the pre-order on when was that? The 20th.
Oh, so you were right on it. You were.
I was on it maybe within the first hour. I'm just going to call myself Klarna Skavarna, because I went through Klarna just to see if it would work, and then Klarna was like, "You're approved." I'm like, "You're damn right." Then I'm doing it now, and I'm just getting it done with, because then I know I'm good to go. Part of me would love to do 2 of them, and then that way I have the cloth for whatever I want to do. But then the other part of me is like, I just don't need to do that right now.
Yeah.
So if you do a standard release, maybe when Panther hits or something, we'll see. I don't know. But
that's a nice thing. Like I said, they at least let you know up front, like, hey, we are doing a regular version, and this is what it'll come. Whereas with He-Man, when He-Man and She-Ra were coming out, like, it was very much, here's what we're doing now. Who knows what's in the future? And so we're all sitting like, well, and I think they took some of that feedback, because I definitely heard some people say, well, if I knew there was going to be a regular release, I wouldn't have gotten the deluxe He-Man, because I only want that classic armor or whatever. Like, whereas me, I would have gotten the deluxe regardless. But it's nice that this time they're like, look, here's what it is. Like, we know what we're doing. We're just going to tell you. We're going to give you 10 days. We're going to tell you, what you're getting now, what's going to come with the standard down the road, which I'm sure will be in conjunction with Panther. And I know I've ragged on Mondo, so that's why I really want to make a point here to go, good job, because this is what I want to see from them, especially with the price of these. Now, granted, I think that these new figures are completely worth the price that they are set at. But with that price point, you've got to give us more information, and you've got to give us more time. And those were my biggest criticisms about them. And so for them to switch this, to this model, absolutely. Keep going this way.
Yeah, I wish the first time they would have done the 10-day or even 2-week model. And because I know for me, I was just like, how am I pulling this off in 2 days? And I was going through my stuff, and I'm like, okay, what can I sell that I know I'm just going to say, hey, if you want this is what you have to sacrifice and stuff. This, and I didn't even know about some of those afterpays even when the first one hit compared to now. So, but I agree, like the 10-day window, number one, made me look at it from, I could do it this way or I could do it that way. And it made me at least go, okay, I don't have to worry about this. I just need to plan how I'm doing this compared to 2 days running around Chicken Little, like, like how do I figure this all out and all that. So, and yeah, I love that in this photo in particular. Just okay, if you want the standard, this is what you're getting. If you want the exclusive, this is what you're getting, or the deluxe, this is what you're getting. And it's like it's so much more concise compared to the questions that were out there when the He-Man hit and all that stuff. And again, I'm like you, I still would have gotten the deluxe He-Man because the options were too darn cool to pass up.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have, like if I would have known, hey, there's a standard one, and the thing is, the standard ones aren't that much more cheaper than the deluxe. So in my opinion, just go with the deluxe if you can do it, and then you have all the options, because the other one's maybe 30 or so bucks cheaper. So because He-Man, I think, was like $230.
Yeah,
I think
about that.
he's actually, that's something I wanted to bring up too. If you miss out on the He-Man initially and you want to get one, he is back up for pre-order on their site as well. It is just the standard version, but you can get a He-Man still, which is pretty cool. I love that they're doing this again for anyone who either couldn't do it previously or anybody that didn't have any idea this was even a thing. So.
No, I completely agree, and I'm still undecided. Honestly, I initially said that I'm good. I've got my Mondo Skeletor, but now I keep looking at pictures of this, so I don't know where I'm going to wind up here.
I will say this has made me so happy I waited. I mean, even the He-Man, not gonna lie, I was very unsatisfied with the initial He-Man and Skeletor in this line, and those to me were so big of a deal that I did not ever pull the trigger on a Mondo figure, even if Merman looked amazing, even if Man-at-Arms was like, that's how Man-at-Arms should look. When this stuff started hitting last year, I'm like, you finally are doing my versions of this that I want Mondo to be doing. And everything that seems to be coming down the pipeline feels pretty darn close to what I was hoping they would do from the get-go in this line.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like I'm happy with the Mondo Skeletor I have, but I'm like, this one would also look really cool. And the dragon. And the dragon is such an incentive. It's crazy. Like
it's the dragon.
I'm thinking dropping all this to get that damn dragon at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Like the dragon number one would be incentive for me. And then number two, you already have a Skeletor. You're going to get 4 heads with this one. So if you didn't like that initial Skeletor head, you can pop that off, put one of these new ones on, and even just go, okay, that's my Terraclaw Skeletor now, and have the dragon with him. You're done. Like, so in that way, I do feel like for someone like you, and I'm not trying to sell you on it, I'm just trying to say from my perspective, if I was you, I'd still go, I might get this one too, and then that's flat out done, Skeletor, because I at least have the initial buck from the original, and I can dress them up a little bit more with what's going on here, but I still have that deluxe Skeletor to display as well, and then you're getting use out of what you get in this set. So, just saying. And that dragon, like, the fact that it is an articulated dragon was more than enough for me to be like, I don't have Skeletor, I need a Skeletor, but that dragon has made me so happy.
Yeah.
I am the least helpful friend, but I'm just saying, that's my opinion.
Last thing we got here, they did also reveal somewhere, I forget where, they did show off their Mondo Beastman.
Yeah.
Who turned out really good. I think the biggest thing here is the size difference with him next to He-Man and She-Ra there. And this is really kind of something we've never really seen before with Beastman.
Mm-hmm.
2000X was definitely a wider, bulkier Beastman, but he wasn't taller than everybody like this.
Yeah.
So this is kind of an all-new, more Yeti type Beastman.
I personally absolutely love it. I've always, since I won't say always. As a kid, I just kind of ran with whatever they gave you and said, okay, Beastman is this. But as I got to be a teenager and was looking at Masters again, I actually wanted Beastman to be big, because it's like, if you want to say he's a beast of a man, that's part. It's like bestial is one thing, but then having him be big is a whole nother thing. So it's like, the Filmation way of him just being the bumbling sidekick henchman kind of character, that's thrown out the window looking at this version, and that's what really is selling me on it. Now I know there are people that aren't thrilled with that, and they want him to be the same size as all the others.
Yeah,
I do understand why you'd feel that way, because no one in the line until now has been big like this. So I get it. But then there is that part of me that's like, but this is like almost my dream version of Beastman, because I wanted him to be bigger based on the way I thought of him, at least. And the details on this figure, like that, making him bigger has only made the details better.
Yeah, for sure. And that looks like they kind of pulled a Masterverse Grizzlord type thing, where it looks like that armor has actually got fur on it.
Yeah.
Which really helps hit textures. The loincloth, of course, looks like some sort of pleather or something. It's some sort of fabric. Yeah, he's got the spiked gauntlet like the vintage toy had, even though it was never colored in. Great job. It's not one I need. Like this one, I can legitimately say he looks great. I don't need him. But I do think he's an amazing version of Beastman. I think all the Beastman fans are going to be really happy with him.
He's definitely coming home with me at some point whenever they do that one. I mean, that again, like the new stuff that's out there, I love that it's out there, but when I see this kind of stuff, it makes me glad I'm not going in that direction, because this is giving me all of the stuff that Classics did almost multiplied by even 10, because this has never ever been something I've had as a kid.
Yeah. And
I'm getting something that's like, a plus 10 to what I remember as a kid or whatever. And the only question I have, at least, is what could the potential reuse of that figure be? Because I know they've been reusing the same buck for pretty much everybody in the line to this point. Now it's like we get this big beast man, and he's furry, and it's sculpted fur, and it makes me go, well, what are they going to use that for down the line? Are they going to do something like Shadow Beasts eventually? Are they going to do something? Because it wouldn't fit Stratos unless they're going to make Stratos freaking huge, which I think that would be a little odd.
Right.
And
Grizzlor is the only one that really comes to mind. For Shadow Beast, like, potentially, but then, like, if Beastman's that big, then Shadow Beast should traditionally be bigger. Like, it's like it's almost too small for Shadow Beast. I think the easy thing is the Red Beastman. That'll probably be like a designer con repaint, so right there. Kind of like the Battle Cat Panther. It's like if we can at least just get one easy repaint use out of it, then that'll help diversify those costs. So I think Red Beastman is probably a given at this point.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. I mean, it's like the Anti-Eternia He-Man should have been a tip-off to that, but I didn't even... Yeah.
Yeah, the Keldor, they've always tried to do Scareglow. I mean, Merman had Designer Con, Man-at-Arms had Designer Con, Hordak had the gray and blue, Trapjaw there, he'll probably get mini comic release, it seems like every figure they've got to at least put out twice for their business model, which I mean, if people like it, they like it. I think that Designer Con Merman was amazing. Gray and Blue Hordak makes perfect sense. Probably the weakest repaint cash grab so far was the Designer Con Man at Arms, because it was just, it was a shiny Man at Arms like the Merman, but to me that doesn't make much sense. Merman, at least you can be like, well, that's him underwater, all those effects.
Yeah.
But Man at Arms is just like, and that's shiny Man at Arms.
But yeah, they're not disappointing. Like I said, everything since Deluxe E-Man has not been disappointing me in any way, shape, or form. And I mean, they can only go so far with this one, even for my taste, because like if they did Manny Faces, that one would probably have me squealing like a little girl, because I love to see what a Manny Faces Mondo figure would look like. And Ram Man and Fisto would pretty much be capping off my Heroic Warriors list at that point, knowing we were going to get Tila down the line too, and I eventually got to track down a Man at Arms. But but beyond that, those are like my key guys. If they go with any of those, and then I got Trapjaw on the way, Beastman, Skeletor. I don't really know. I'd have to like think really hard on what other villains would I need. So,
I agree. Mondo's really hitting their stride. They're really doing some good stuff right now. So I'm happy, even if my wallet is angry.
Well, isn't that how it works? As an adult, I'm happy. My wallet hates me, but I'm happy at least.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. It's like the whole adulting thing. It's like, well, adulting also means I get to have a little fun sometimes, and damn it, it will be with Mondo, because their pre-orders aren't nearly as, every other week like some of these releases are for the figures. It's a little easier. So
completely agree. All right, guys. I think that's an episode today.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? It's a nice fun look. We got deep earlier, so let's.
That's true.
Let's let these people get some of their day left. I hope you guys are all enjoying the summer. I hope it's nice weather by you guys. I hope your kids are not as annoying as my kids. And I love them, but I love them more when they're at school.
My kids haven't been driving me too crazy, but yeah, I've had my moments where I'm just like, can they just go back to school for the day so I can like think without having to worry about everything else upstairs right now?
I will say, I remember when I was in high school, there was a lot of serious talk about going year-round. Format.
I remember that.
And I, of course, was steadfastly against it as a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
But now as a parent, I'm like, you know what? That actually sounds pretty good. And
it's brilliant.
Honestly, looking back, I think if they had explained it better, I probably would have been for it back then, because it's like you still get a longer break at summer, but then you also get a longer Christmas break too. You get like 6 weeks off both places instead of the 9 weeks off in the summer. Like that actually sounds pretty awesome. Even looking back now, I'm like, me as a kid, I'm like, year-round school, I'm not going to have any breaks ever.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, you get a lot nicer breaks that are evenly spaced throughout the year. I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Yeah. When I was a kid, that started coming out like right after I graduated, which made me like, I don't have to worry. But now that I'm an adult, now it's like, oh, why did I ever,
Right.
But hey, real quick. One last thing, and then we can close out completely. We got a new review on iTunes.
Oh, your begging paid off.
No, not. It doesn't pay off every time, but yes, it does pay off every now and then.
Only for reviews. That's
only for reviews.
Begging pays off.
So it is a 5-star review.
Nice.
I've been listening to these guys for quite a while now, and I never tire of their perspectives. I'm a massive Motu fan, and they are too, perhaps more so. I'm consistently impressed by their knowledge and positivity. This episode, we didn't show the knowledge as much because we couldn't come up with some things. But you know what? You got to give us an off week every now and then.
Yeah.
Knowledge and positivity.
For that copyright infringement.
Well, Curtis is everywhere, you know. Sure, they have their opinions, but they never make the listener feel unwelcome. Matt and Sean have a tangible chemistry, and listening to just one of their episodes will reinforce why you got into Masters in the first place. Therefore, listen to every episode, people. Add fuel to your Motu fire and add your knowledge to the lore. These guys are amazing. Also, head over to their YouTube channel and subscribe. That was on June 7th from Skelevator.
Thank you. Long time listener, first time caller.
Yep.
No, he's a great guy too. Check him out over at Toy Frenzy in this Skelevator YouTube channel because he is amazing. Yes, as he brought it up, go subscribe on YouTube. We're so close to 1,000. We've been so close to 1,000. We need like 30 of you dudes to go hit the subscribe button.
Yes, so and also we will still, if you want to do on your podcast apps or whatever, let us know, and we will read your review. Yep. And yeah, we're happy to do that, and that's awesome. Any positivity is always good, welcome and good.
I agree. Thank you guys for tuning in. Click all the buttons below. Like, share, subscribe. Hearts, stars, horseshoes, clovers, blue moons, whatever's down there.
Purple horseshoes.
And we thank you. Until next time, give all your money to Mondo.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Oh, bear. Oh.